Hello and welcome to the Soccer Summary. This is episode 1 of hopefully many, and basically in this episode we're just going to be going over the up and coming week 33 of the English Premier League fixtures. In future videos we'll be doing everything Champions League, big news, pretty much everything that you can think of, but first video we're just going to go straight into the English Premier League. So let's pull up the fixtures now. So as you can see, we've got really big games over Saturday and Sunday all the way through. We've got teams pushing for the title, we've got teams pushing for Champions League, teams just trying to get into Europa, teams fighting off relegation. Pretty much everybody else in the middle is trying to finish the season on a high for their fans, really. So let's kick off with the first game, West Ham and Arsenal. Okay, so this is a massive game for both teams. West Ham have been amazing this season. They've done the double over a lot of the big teams. If they win this game, they'll do the double over Arsenal. What are they playing for? Basically, they're playing for Champions League football. You saw it last week, the ambition in Bilic. He was disappointed. He's been disappointed the last two games, and they've drew 2-2 with Crystal Palace and Chelsea. And the disappointment in him is we should be winning in these games. We should be getting into the top four. They're chasing, two Manchester sides that have spent an absolute fortune. Manchester City, 2 players, 100 million. Louis van Gaal's throwing money around like the Monopoly guy. He's spent over 300 million on... Not really sure. A couple of friends from the Dutch national team when he was manager. I'm not sure pretty much about what he's been doing with that money. But look, West Ham have been pure class this season, and if they got into the top 4, to have Tottenham, Leicester and West Ham in the top 4 this season would just blow the league open next year. Money-wise, the smaller teams who haven't had their big money of the big teams, they seem to spend their money a lot better than the Manchester Uniteds, the Man Cities, well, definitely the Arsenals, even Chelsea. When Mourinho was there, he did pretty well at organising the cash last season. But Payet, West Ham, what can you say? The man's a genius. He can probably score a free kick from anywhere on the pitch. The amount of goals and assists he's got this season from midfield for a team like West Ham, with no disrespect to West Ham, but they haven't been going out and spending millions and millions on all these different kinds of players. They've done just amazing. I thought they'd done well under Big Sam. I know the fans didn't agree with the kind of football that he was playing, but I thought they did. I thought they did well under Sam Allardyce, if they've got Champions League football and they're moving into the Millennium Stadium as well, you just think, a London club, they'll do pretty well. On the other hand, you've got Arsenal, and I think you can pretty much see even the Arsenal fans now think it's time for Wenger to go. This game, is it big for them? I don't think they can catch Leicester. I think there's only one team that can catch Leicester, and that's Tottenham. Which won't please the Arsenal fans, but that's the situation that they're in. They're not going to fall out of the top 4. I think they're just stuck in that middle level with no pressure on them, which is what they like. When there's no pressure on Arsenal, they play really well. They score a lot of goals, they assist, everything like that. As soon as the pressure comes, they're gone. They lose their heads. They're totally out of it. So tomorrow, is there pressure on them? Isn't there? I think there's more pressure on the manager than the players. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal went out and won 4-0. But with this West Ham side, I just can't see that happening. They'll fight and fight and fight, and a draw is probably the result that we're going to get tomorrow. I might be wrong. This is the Premier League. Anything can happen. But I mean, the big news that came out of this game for me was Arsene Wenger yesterday said that he had the chance of signing Payet, and he turned it down because of inconsistency. Does he watch football, and does he watch Arsenal games? Because inconsistency is their middle name when it comes to big games, pretty much. And I don't know if this is a stroke of genius from him saying this, or this is just absolute nonsense. But tomorrow, if Payet doesn't show up, if he's not in the game, Arsene Wenger says, I was right all along, pretty much. But if he does, and he is the game changer, he's building himself up for a fall. For me, he basically will look stupid, like he normally does. Okay, so the next game is Swansea and Chelsea. To be honest, this is a bit of a nothing game. I think a lot of the big headlines for these two teams have been off the pitch for the past 2 years. Swansea are safe now for me. I don't think they'll be pulled into that. They've over the past 5 games, I think they've won 3, lost 1, and drawn 1. So they've hit that kind of relegation form where they're going to be safe, but the fans are like, a little bit of excitement. Could we have got pulled into it a little bit just to get out? But, IU's back. They might get a good result tomorrow. They're at home. Push over Chelsea a bit. It's always good for the small teams to beat the big money men. Now, Chelsea is a completely different story. I mean, they should be going up to Claudio Ranieri and shaking his hand and saying thank you, because if it wasn't for Leicester this season, it wasn't for Ranieri, and probably for Tottenham as well, and West Ham just getting in there, they would be on the back of every newspaper every week. They've been that bad. For the money they've spent, the managers they've had, they should not be in this situation at all. I mean, some of the players have bordered on a disgrace this season. I mean, Diego Costa, what's he thinking sometimes? What is going through that man's head? It's like he doesn't care. He obviously doesn't want to be there. We've heard rumblings for, last summer. He won the league there last summer. He wanted to go back to Spain. He wanted to go back to Atletico Madrid. They wanted him, but Chelsea said no. You've got Eden Hazard, who I think did go, because I haven't seen him all season. I don't know where he's been. Personally, I don't think he's that good of a player, Eden Hazard. I think there are a lot of other better players, and I think they will get a lot of money for him if he leaves next year. And they will, 50 million PSG, 50 million Real Madrid, thank you, because 50 million will get you a better player than Hazard. It just will. It's as simple as that. I think Chelsea, obviously the big news for them this week is they've got a new manager for next season, Antonio Conte. I don't know why they keep hiring people who are difficult, because he is a very difficult manager. So much so that he could get a suspended 6-month sentence for match fixing. If that goes through, does he not get a footballing ban? So where will Chelsea be then? Another new manager? In my opinion, should have stuck with Mourinho and sacked the troublemaking players. If they can let John Terry go at the end of the season, and they can let Frank Lampard just leave, probably, in my opinion, the 2 biggest players for the club. That in the Premier League era, the 2 biggest players they've ever had, and they let them leave, free contracts, just go, no, loyalty in Roman Abramovich at all. If they can do that, then you just worry about where the club's going. Mourinho should still be there, pretty much. If they can let them legends go, why didn't they let the troublemakers go before? that's pretty much all there is to say about this match. I mean, if you look at the list of players that are out, you've got Matic, Costa, Hazard, or Terry. So, I mean, the good eggs that are still in there will probably win tomorrow. And on a brighter note, William, as Paul Merson calls him, has been brilliant all season. He's been one of my players of the season. He's so consistent, even with when the Mourinho trouble was happening at the beginning of the season. William was outstanding. He was a step above every other Chelsea player in the team. It was like he was saying, well, I'm a footballer, I'm getting paid to play football. I don't care what's going on. I don't know if the language barrier missed him. I've never heard him speak English. I don't know if he can speak it very well, but he just kept out of everything. He just played, and he played. He's brilliant. He's just played so well all season. And I think next year we'll see what happens, but it's a slippery slope. We've seen it with Manchester United. You know, we've seen it with Arsenal, I suppose, to an extent. They keep getting in the Champions League, Arsenal, but there always is a bit of drama. But yeah, Chelsea, for me, they really, really need to work hard next season to get in the Champions League. Forget about the title. Okay, so Crystal Palace and Norwich is the next game. Crystal Palace just can't win. They just cannot win games. It's been, I think, maybe 13 or 14 games since they last won in the Premier League. I mean, they should be deep in the relegation fight. If it wasn't for such a good start they had, they should be down there. And if they lose this game, they will be pulled into it. If Norwich win and Crystal Palace lose, they will be pulled into it. Obviously, if Sunderland and Newcastle get results as well. But in all honesty, Crystal Palace, I think, will stay up. I mean, Alan Pardew is a brilliant manager. Crystal Palace are one of them teams this season where I just do not know what went wrong. When they play well, they play very well. They're such a good counter-attacking side. I mean, Zaha, Balassi, when they're bombing it down on them wings, they'll frighten the death out of you. You just don't want to play them. Last season, when they were away from home, they would just terrorise the big teams. This season, I know Balassi's been out quite a few games. I think that's basically what's happened. They've got injuries to key players, and they're not a club who can replace them players very easily. They haven't got amazing substitutes to bring on. So yeah, I mean, I think we can all say Crystal Palace are safe, but they want to just look out because there's enough games left for upsets. I mean, remember Leicester last season, they got out of it. Everybody thought they were down and they got out of it. If one team gets out of it, somebody has to be pulled into it. And at the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to be Norwich, to be honest. They've won their last 2 games. They're hitting great relegation form. This is like perfect relegation form now. It's not too dangerous and it's not too amazing. They're just pulling out of it, and this is a really good game for them because they'll want to put pressure on everybody else. If they can put pressure on the team that's next to them in the league, Crystal Palace, fine, do it. You know, pull them into it a little bit because next week, Norwich win or lose, people are still going to say, yeah, Norwich still in it. So if they're on the same points as Crystal Palace, suddenly everyone's saying, well, are Norwich and Crystal Palace still in it? So I think that is basically the big talking about point about this game. The 2 up north clubs, Sunderland and Newcastle, they're the relegation. You know, they will have to turn it on for one of these teams to go down. But you've still got to look after your own games. And in this game, I mean, Palace at home can't win. You've got Norwich away who can win. I just don't know where this game's going to go. I'd probably say Palace home win, their first win in a very long time. But I think they will win because of just how close it's getting at the bottom. They don't want to be pulled into it. Alan Pardew wins this game, he can start planning for next season. Okay, so the next game is Southampton and Newcastle. Southampton at home in this game should be winning it. They should definitely be winning this game. They're kind of winning that mid-table battle at the moment, and their prize at the end of it will be catching West Ham if they can and getting into Europe. They've got really, really good players. The problem is with Southampton is they are a massive selling club. Mane wants to leave, and the only reason he's gone back on that and apologised earlier on is because he wants to play. If it was up to him, he'd have gone to Manchester United in January. But Southampton just weren't playing ball, basically because I think if they'd have sold anybody else, then the manager, Koeman, would have just gone. He would have just left. And they didn't want that because he's a very, very good manager who's lost very, very good players. And he's still getting them into good situations in the league. It's a strange one for me because all season people have been saying Man City have done so bad, they've underachieved, how embarrassed they must be that Leicester are going to win the league. Arsenal, this should have been their year. They fixed the goalkeeper problem, they bought Peter Cech, and they should have won the league this year. Manchester United spent £300 million over 2 seasons. They should have won the league this year. You know, Chelsea, we're not even going to get into that. They've just totally self-destruct this season. Basically, that's it. But for me, I always look at the other teams. If Leicester could do it, I mean, Southampton fans it would keep me awake at night. It would just keep me awake all night thinking, what if we hadn't have sold them players? Just for one season more, you know, just keep hold of them players for one more season. Could they have done what Leicester had done? And the answer is yes. They had an amazing squad of young talent, young players, and they could have easily done what Leicester had done in a season basically where a lot of teams are underachieving. And if Koeman could get onto this position with the players they had, where could he have took them? I mean, where could he have took them this season? But for me, they're still doing very good for the players they've got. I think next season they're probably going to lose some players, and if Koeman doesn't get the money to replace them players, I wouldn't be surprised if he left next season. On the other hand, I mean, you've got Newcastle, and if they go down this season, Mike Ashley for me did the right thing at the end of last season. He came out, he spoke to the fans, he said, I want this club to be bigger. I want us to move forward. He spent a lot of money. Great. He spoke to the fans. Great. Hired Steve McLaren. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? He could not motivate me to get up in the morning for £60,000 a week. He's a great coach. Every time you hear someone talk about him, he says, "Oh, he's a great coach." I mean, tactically brilliant. Man management skills, talking to the players, motivating the players. I just don't know I don't know how he's getting work, especially after when he was in charge of England, the whole umbrella situation. Everything was right but the manager. And now what they've done is they've replaced him with somebody who famously loses dressing rooms in Rafa Benitez. I mean, this is a guy who couldn't get Napoli into the Champions League. And this season they're pushing to win the league. At the beginning of the season he was at Real Madrid, where in, I think, one of his first press conferences, somebody asked him if Ronaldo was the best player in the world. And he said, he's up there. We all know Ronaldo, the best way to get the best out of him is to butter him up, butter up his ego. Yes, Ronaldo, you are the best player in the world. It doesn't matter if you didn't win the award, you are the best. That's all he had to say. Yeah, I mean, he lost the dressing room within a week, didn't he? They just didn't care. They didn't want to play for him. They wanted Ancelotti. That's it. I don't know how he gets work either. This is like Newcastle's picking of managers is absolutely terrible. And it's not all down to the chairman. I think the fans hated the chairman so much that the fans basically forced Alan Pardew to just go, I can't do this anymore. And if Alan Pardew was still there and Mike Ashley had spent this much money, they'd be mid-table, probably pushing for Europe, because the players that they've got, John Joe Shelby, Townsend, these are just the ones that they've just brought in, the big players. They should be doing much, much better. They're basically they're going down. I think personally they're going down. When I think about it in my head, I'm shocked to be thinking about the teams that are down there. But unfortunately, if you keep making wrong decisions, this league will bite you, and it's bit them very, very hard this season. Watford and Everton is the next game. Watford have done, I think, very, very well this season to stay out of the relegation battle. 37 points on there with Swansea, but I think, like Swansea now, they're all right. Start planning for next season. Just keep out of it a little bit, a couple of more points on the board, and they'll be completely safe. No one's talking about Watford getting pulled into it. No one. This game is like the Chelsea game. It's a bit of a nothing game. All the headlines about it are off the field. Watford, for me, though, have done very, very well. Everton, on the other hand, if you look at their team, they are far too good to be sitting in 12th position. They just are. They've got some of the best players and young, coming up players and older players in the league to be sitting in 12th. I don't know how Chelsea didn't buy John Stones at the beginning of the season. I think if they had have done, I think Mourinho would still be in a job. I think the whole Mourinho thing basically hung on Everton saying, no, we're not selling him. And Mourinho didn't get what he wanted. And Abramovich basically didn't give him anything else. They gave him Pedro, who I don't think Mourinho really wanted. But Everton, Lukaku is just a goal machine. Ross Barkley, one of the best England midfielders and young midfielders in the country. They have got genuine class players. Deulofeu, when he turns it on, is good enough to go back to Barcelona when he really turns it on. The problem is Barcelona saw that he didn't do that enough. He didn't do it in the Spanish league last season, where he may have been with Seville. I'm not 100% sure on that. But when he plays well for Everton, he plays very well. This team shouldn't be where they are. I don't want to say it because I really, really like him, but fingers have got to start pointing at Martinez. They were last season. And from what I can remember, they were before. I remember being on the way home from a football match and on the radio, every single Everton fan that rang in just wanted him gone. No matter if they win or lose, he raves about how good his own players are, and he sticks up for them through thick and thin. At some point, he just has to turn around and say, okay, we're not doing good enough at the moment. The players aren't performing. What can I do? What more can he do to get something out of these players? I can't see it happening. I can't see him just turning it around next season. I think, Everton's a big, big club who have massively underachieved for a lot of years now. And I really don't want him to leave, but I think it's maybe time for him to go, Martinez. I think some of the players will leave next year as well. If no one in the top four pick up Ross Barkley, I'm not sure why that wouldn't happen. Lukaku kind of looks like he wants to go. He said he wants to play Champions League football. John Stones has been linked with every single team in the world, basically. So this team could have a lot of players leave for big money, but will the manager, be it Martinez or somebody else, get to spend it? I'm not sure. I think Everton will win this game, just because the pressure's gone now. No one's really talking about them. Everybody are riding this Leicester wave at the moment, where no one really cares if you're doing bad because everybody's talking about Leicester. That's it. A lot of people are getting away with murder this year because Leicester are doing so well, because West Ham are doing so well, because Tottenham are doing so well, and because the bottom three are doing so poorly. So when it all resets at the beginning of the next season, we'll see if Martinez is still going to be there. Bournemouth and Aston Villa is the next game. Bournemouth will win. But I think that's pretty much all there is to say about this game. And Eddie Howe for Bournemouth has been brilliant. Bournemouth are another team that have done really, really well to stay out of that relegation battle. There was a few people thinking that maybe this season they would get pulled into it and go down, but they've done very, very well to keep their heads above the water, and not just above the water. I mean, they've been walking on water at times, mid-table. They've done really, really good. Aston Villa they could go down tomorrow. They could go down on Saturday. They probably will. It's only what they deserve. I feel terrible for the fans. And pretty much one of the biggest clubs that there's been through the Premiership years. Almost won the Premiership in the 90s. Very, very close. Manchester United just pipping them to it. And they've got a chairman who doesn't care. He wants to sell. At the moment they haven't got a manager. They've got a standing manager, Eric Black, I think. They should have went down last season. Benteke kept them up. They sold him basically because they just wanted some money. They didn't put it back into the club well enough. They're just, it's like one of them things where you could blame the backroom staff and you could blame the chairman and stuff like that, but the players have been an utter disgrace this season. Gabby Agbonlahor is missing this game, and he missed the last game because he's in Dubai. I think he was smoking some kind of pipe or something like that. And the smoking aside, why is he in Dubai? This team are bottom of the league. Why? He should be in training every single day. The manager should have him in that day. One day off doesn't get you to Dubai. That doesn't work. 2 days off they won't go to Dubai for 2 days. How was he off for this long that he went to Dubai? Was it international weekend? Why was he away? They should be training. For them to get paid enough money for them to jet off to Dubai, smoke, get caught, and then to miss 2 games, and they still don't really care. I really do feel for Aston Villa fans. An amazing stadium, an amazing history of the club, and it's just getting trampled on by a bunch of people who really don't care. Like I said, Bournemouth will win this game, and Aston Villa will go down. Okay, so the last game on Saturday, the late kick-off, is Manchester City West Brom. Manchester City are fighting for 4th place. I really think they're fighting for 4th place, mainly because of the uncertainty of just who do they take direction from. Pellegrini's, we know, is going. Pep's coming in. Yaya Toure leaving. Look, at the beginning of the season, they won the first 5 games. they should have. I mean, this season they could have won every game. They've got that good of a squad. Raheem Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne, 50 million each. They've got that kind of money. They can just throw it around how they want. And both players aren't worth 50 million each. 30 million maybe, but not 50. When they turn it on, they're the best team in the league by a million miles. They are so good. And Pellegrini is a really, really good manager. And towards the end of the season, it's just fell apart. I mean, you could blame the Pep situation, but you can't feel too bad for Pellegrini. And you basically, because what happened with Pep Guardiola basically is how he got the job, because they were talking to him before they sacked Mancini, and that's how he got the job. He stole it from him. Pep stealing it from him. It's a Manchester City tradition that I'm sure will go on and on and on, because Pep is going to find it very hard in this league. But basically, Manchester City they've fallen apart. They've massively underachieved. If next season Pep Guardiola comes and they're not in the Champions League, they'll be a laughing stock. Like I said, you can't feel sorry for Pellegrini because he was guilty of doing exactly the same thing when he came in. You can't feel sorry for the players because they're the ones out there playing. And you can't feel sorry for the fans because, they were basically given this great squad and all this money, and winning the Premier League 2 times, it should be enough for them. They're not used to winning these big massive trophies all the time. So I'm sure they're happy enough. Their trophy is Pep Guardiola for next season, who I'm sure will be a success, but not straight away. I think he'll have to settle in. I think there's also a lot of people who think Pep Guardiola is massively overrated, and I'm not one of them. I think it is very hard to win with very, very good players. You still have to motivate them, which is the hardest thing to do. Look at Rafa Benitez once again at Real Madrid. You can say one thing: the dummy's out the pram. You're never going to get them back because they're worth so much more to the club than you are. The manager can go, the players will stay. Look at Chelsea. But, tomorrow I think Man City will win this game. West Brom is another one of them teams, nothing to play for. Tony Pulis's contract is up at the end of the season. I think they want he said, he's not fussed about an extension straight away. He can, why would they get rid of Tony Pulis? It guarantees you Premier League football. If you hire Tony Pulis, you will be in the Premier League the next year. You may not win, top of the table. You may not get the Champions League. You may not get Europa. You may not win one of the cups. But in all honesty, are West Brom's expectations winning things, or are they to stay in the Premier League? I think they're to stay in the Premier League. I think they want mid-table. It's good money. They've got good enough players. They'll be there next season, but I think they'll lose tomorrow. So that's the Saturday previews done for the Premier League Week 33. And tomorrow I'll be posting the Sunday previews, some really big matches in there: Manchester United, Tottenham, Liverpool, Stoke, obviously the leaders of the Premier League, and relegation strugglers Sunderland as well. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. It's my first video that I've put on YouTube. If you like it, press like, subscribe, maybe even drop a couple of comments what I can improve on, and things that maybe you want to talk about or things that I've missed. And we can basically get a community going on here where we can talk about the big things, not just in England, but everywhere. Football, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, internationals, everything like that. But like I said before, really hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed doing it for my first video. It's been really cool. But yeah, enjoy the football this weekend, and hope to hear from all you guys soon.